Okay, so the next video that I'm gonna make is just basically explaining the difference between a perfect competitive firm and a monopolistic firm. Okay, so the first thing about a perfectly competitive firm is this is a firm that's within a perfectly competitive market. So the most important thing here is that price is given. So this firm cannot influence the market price, and for that reason, the price that he is going to receive as income for his good is fixed at market prices. The monopolistic firm is the only firm in the market, meaning that he can set the price where he wants to. However, he needs to consider the demand for that specific product. The demand will determine to a large degree the price that people are willing to pay for that good. So the comparison that I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw them. I'm going to draw them, and hopefully if I draw the difference between the two and how do they set their profit maximizing price and quantity, and hopefully if we do that by drawing it, you do understand it. Okay, so the first thing first important aspect for a perfectly competitive firm is we know that their price is market price. Okay, so we have the market price, and this is the price that they will receive. So let's just say that's price, and we know that price for a perfectly competitive firm is equal to his average revenue, and that's also equal to his marginal revenue. So if you don't know how I get that, take a table, say output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, say the price is 10 Rand or $10. You place 10 alongside each of these quantities, so irrespective of the quantity the price stays the same. Then you get your average revenue, and you get your marginal revenue, and you will see that that is always 10. It will be equal to 10 if the price is 10. Okay, so the perfectly competitive firm, we have a price which is fixed in the market, and that is 10. We also have the marginal cost. So the marginal cost is the additional, or the cost of if we add or produce one more additional unit. So this is our marginal cost. So it looks like this. Just say marginal cost. There we go. That's our marginal cost. So the marginal cost will be different for each firm within the perfectly competitive market. Okay, so the marginal cost depends on the technology, the inputs, in other words, that the firm will use to produce an output. So it will be different for each firm. For this firm, this is how the marginal cost curve looks like. So at one point in time, the marginal cost will be exactly the same as our marginal revenue. And what we've learned in second-year economics, first-year economics, is that a firm, irrespective if it's a perfectly competitive firm or whether it's a monopolistic firm, will maximize his profit when his marginal cost is equal to his marginal revenue. For instance, or in that case, exactly here. Let's make it a nice star. There we go. So at that point, the perfectly competitive firm will maximize his profit. So based on what we see in this graph, we should only be able now, we can now be able to identify the quantity that this firm will have to produce to maximize his profit. He can do nothing about his price, but he can set his quantity. So if we look at the quantity, we have an idea that the quantity is where these two are equal. So in this case, let's just do that. So that's the quantity that this firm will produce at, and then he will maximize his profit. Okay, so let's just look at this graph. So in this area here, where I'm going to place the star now, underneath price and above marginal cost, for every unit that we produce here, we are going to make a profit. Okay, we're going to make a profit because why? the price is higher than the cost for each of these units that we either produce or sell. So this represents an income, profit. So we still make a profit, profit until the point where these two are exactly the same. Now our income and our expenditure for that unit, that last unit, is exactly the same. So this area here, if we now continue to produce more than this quantity here, the cost per unit will be more expensive than the price that we receive. So the cost for this unit here will be higher than the income. For that reason, we are now losing money. Okay, so we are losing money. So this area here, we are starting to lose money. So for that reason, if the income that we receive is higher, the marginal revenue is higher than marginal cost, we will expand production. If the marginal cost is higher than the marginal revenue, we will stop producing and start producing less, up until the point where these two are equal to one another. So now let's look at the monopolistic firm. So we have a demand curve for the monopolistic firm. There we go. And then we also have our marginal revenue curve for the monopolistic firm. Okay, so just remember that the difference between our vertical axis and the marginal revenue curve will be the same distance as the marginal revenue curve distance to the demand curve or the price curve. Okay, let's just name them. This is our average revenue, which is equal to our demand curve. Because I just have to put it there. And this one here at the bottom is our marginal revenue. Marginal revenue, MR. Here we go. It's our marginal revenue curve. Okay, so now what we need to add is the marginal cost. So the marginal cost will be similar to what the marginal cost curve looks like for the perfectly comparative firm. Why? Same reason. The marginal cost, or the cost associated with producing the goods, will be dependent on the technology and the input that this monopolistic firm will use. Okay, so for each monopolistic firm in a different market or a different good, if it's in China, if it's in the US, if it's in South Africa, New Zealand, wherever it is, if it's the same good, but they use different technologies, so the monopolistic firm's marginal cost will most likely look different if the same type of good is produced but in different markets. So here we go, marginal cost, like this. This is our marginal cost curve. So the question is now, where do we maximize our profit? So for a monopolistic firm, same rule applies. Where our marginal revenue and our marginal cost curve intersect, where those two are the same value, that is where we maximize our profit. So let's have a look, and they intersect at this place here. So let's put our star there so that you can see this is the point where they intersect. Okay, so at this point illustrates the quantity that we are going to produce. So the quantity is this value here, somewhere around here. This is the quantity. Now to get the price, we need to move up until we intersect the demand curve. So this is not the price. If we move to the left to the price curve, this is not the price. The price is what the people will pay in the market for this quantity. So we need to move up until we get to the demand curve, and then we see, okay, well, based on this quantity, they are willing to pay that price. Here we go. Okay, so that's the price, and that is the quantity. So let's look more closely at why this is the case, where they maximize their income. or the profit. At every quantity, as we move along this quantity axis on the the horizontal line, the marginal revenue is above the marginal cost. So for this whole area here, we want to expand production because our income is higher than our our cost. So this whole area here, represented by the circle, we are making money. We are increasing our income. But then we get to a point where these two are together. If we now continue to produce, our cost per unit will be more than the income per unit. So as you can see, this whole area here, the cost is more than the income. Okay, so this area represented by the rectangular polygon. Okay. We actually then lose money. So we need to reduce our quantity, our output, so that we can maximize our profit. Okay, so the basic concepts are the same. We maximize profit, MR equals MC. I've given you the reasons why that is the case. The major difference between the two: monopolistic firm only have one firm in the market, perfectly competitive firm, more than one. Price is given. You can't change the price in a perfectly competitive market for the perfectly competitive firm. The monopolistic firm, he can decide if he has improved technology. So if that marginal cost shifts to the left or to the right, he can expand production, because then he can change the quantity and the price just as he prefers to. But he needs to consider the demand curve. Always consider the demand curve, because the demand will give us an indication of the price that people is willing to pay for that specific good. So that's the end. I hope that helps you, and until next time, bye.